Alright everyone, this is the one. This is the Vertex Intro S100 and it's the full-size keyboard that sounds full corner to corner. It has great sound, of course RGB, and it has a low front height, kind of steep typing angle, but it has that banger price. I'm not gonna make you wait till the end of the video to talk about the price. It's only $220. That's nuts. It's kind of big. Let's get into it, all right? Let's quickly do an overview of the aesthetics. In Vertex fashion, we have a ton of anodized and TKD coated colorways that's gonna blow your mind. I think this is as far as you can get without having custom top and bottom colorways. That would cost too many SKUs. It makes it a little bit difficult for the vendor, but the colorways they have are crazy. Like let's appreciate for a second by going down the list. Some of the ones that stand out to me are like the monster colorway, the red, and unfortunately I have a little bit of a boring one here, but it is dual tone. So dual tone makes it pop while still retaining an elegant aesthetic that doesn't stand out too much in an office. And I say that specifically because I've been going into the office and I brought my polycarbonate Kohaku with GMK panels, and now I'm known as the rainbow keyboard guy. With the aesthetic here, we do have a PVD badge up top, but I will say the back of it, oh my god, that is a fat sweaty hand. The back of it is using an aluminum back. It's not trying to hide it. It's not trying to pretend it's brass or copper or anything like that. But let me wipe that down. Jeez. But that's the best I can do. The weight is actually inside. There's an internal brushed SS weight that provides a heft, which is making my arm hurt a little bit right now. Aesthetically speaking, we have the color in the back, but not necessarily an external weight. And in terms of the shiny stuff, you get in the front. The mirror PVD top right kind of badge stands out with the logo Intro. Looks pretty good. So all the fancy stuff, like there's been some complaints because you get the designs and the engraving and the brass or copper weight on the back, which you'll never see. The good stuff's in the front that you'll see every single day. Like I mentioned before, this is a low front height board. See right there, 15.8 millimeters, which is crazy. The typing angle is 10 degrees, which is taller, steeper than I'm used to, but it feels pretty comfortable here. I'd rather have a steeper typing angle than a really flat one. Flat ones are really hard to type on. I end up brushing over keys and end up typoing a lot. So steeper is preferred to me, but honestly for myself, I like 7 to 8 degrees, maybe 8.5, 9 and 10, that's where it gets a little steep. Overall, this is a very low front height board and very comfortable to type on without a wrist rest for sure. There's a little cutout at the bottom of the case to accommodate for the lower front height. So you're not gonna have the issue like in the Frog TKL where you have a low front height, but you can't really use screw-in stabilizers because the screw would actually tap the case itself, creating an odd noise at the spacebar. For that board, if you do have it, where the main mod would be to use snap-in stabilizers and then like file it down a bit to make sure it fits. Not ideal, but it's implemented here, so you can use any stabilizer you want, and you're not gonna have any issues with that sound. No interference. It's really interesting to see a board actually have a low front height because it was all the rage in like 2021, 2022. Many years ago, and anything that had low front height was goated. It was really desired. These days I feel like I'm more used to these taller front height, like 19 millimeters is okay as long as the bump on is not too high. I only start worrying when it's like 22 millimeters plus bump on, then be like 23, 24. That gets a little bit too hairy for me, but this really nice to see in a modern board of today. The only time things like that do bother me is like the CW88. Really cheap board. That last sale was like 150 bucks and we thought it was a scam, and he actually shipped those extras. Crazy. But that board is taller and then flatter angle, and it feels really weird to type on. Not ideal, but if you got in on that sale for like 100 bucks, you made out like a bandit. Like I mentioned, the weight is internal, so externally there's no weight. Oh my god, my sweaty hand again. Having the weight internal means they don't have to put as much money into the finishing of the weight, so it's like a brushed stainless steel weight, and it doesn't have to be perfectly mirrored, so it saves money, which is reflected in the $220 price point. Really nice. I prefer that, having the clean back be all ano. Ano doesn't patina like brass or copper. I'm gonna show you what bad patina looks like, okay? This pea yellow tofu has been abused, man. Look at the patina. Look at all the markings on there. I don't even know what that dark mark is. Someone like dropped oil in it or something. This is not cute, okay? So if you have all brass on the back, and even if this doesn't necessarily have a clear coat on it or anything, but some people have been putting like a sticker over their PVD weight to make sure there's no scratches. If it's a mirror PVD weight, it will get scratches no matter what. It's almost guaranteed. Dust will scratch that thing. Okay, so you know, maybe having an aluminum back isn't that bad, as long as it does have the heft in some other way, like having it internally. The other boards that have internal weights are like the Gateron F1 series. Totally fine, no one really complained about that. But if the back is all flat in one color, like the F18X V2 and F18X original as well, I get bored. So I like what's being done here. Okay, I don't mind it at all, as long as there's some kind of weight. If a manufacturer or a designer is trying to get by with making a brass looking aluminum weight but nothing internally, kind of a bit of a scam in my opinion. Just my opinion. There's some bevels here that make it look really nice, very premium. Right, so let's go to the front right here, where it says 10. That's a diffused, proper front-facing LED RGB thing. Thanks, Malka. Oh, we're saved. It's an indicator LED. It's nice. Oh my God, I lost a foot. I was supposed to talk about how these stay on earlier, later. They came off on my desk. Let me make sure I push them on right. All right. This RGB right here has some issues with the programming, so it only turns on for numlock. It should be connected and programmed under back or underglow, backglow, whatever it is in V. I'm not very smart. But there's like perky RGB and then there's like underglow separate RGB. But unfortunately, it's only linked to the numlock here. Not ideal. In terms of the other portion of lighting, it's underneath this badge. If you don't use this badge, you're gonna have perky up here. That's pretty cool. But then you have to have some keycap that kind of shows it. So other than the perky and the indicator LED, there's also rear-facing LEDs at the back of the board. Here I'm changing it to rainbow so you can see it with a light on in your room. You probably won't see it on the desk at all, but I go ahead and turn off the light here and you can see a little bit of glow. It's not the best, but it's there, it's a feature. So 3 ways to have lighting: the front facing LED, the perky, and the rear facing at the back of the board. As for the build of this thing, this is PCB mount gasket. Dude. I'm using a carbon fiber plate here, and it is a full carbon fiber plate. So that kind of is a departure from the other full-size boards that we built. Normally those have a break in the PCB in the plate around here for kind of arrows, navigation, as well as a numpad or just a numpad. And here it's all one piece, one PCB, one plate. Easy peasy, solid, and feels better in my opinion. I like that stiffness. I find that when it's broken up into 2 pieces, the other side sounds kind of worse. Just my experience. There's also a kind of acoustic plastic sheet at the bottom that's screwed into the case. It's supposed to make it sound less hollow, and it works. I actually tried to remove it on the stream. It did not make it better, and it took a lot of time because there were a lot of little screws. Don't recommend you removing it. It also goes over the weights themselves, and the weights themselves are covering a battery because the PCB is tri-mode. $220 gets you all this internal weight, PCB gasket mount, big board, anodization or coating, and you get tri-modes. You can use a dongle, you can use Bluetooth, and you can do the whole thing. That's a lot of features. I personally don't care about tri-mode, but some people may, so there you go. And in terms of this board, it is not using the ball and latch system that we've seen in some of the budget boards. Unfortunately, I really like being able to pop it on and off, but this is more secure. It is using 4 screws underneath these rubber feet. That should stay. It normally does stay, but it popped out on me just now. 4 screws, the rubber gasket, 1 solid plate. I will say one thing. I was using Gateron cream sodas, which are long pole switches, but they're also large. Most Gateron switches are a little bit larger than their cherry counterparts. It barely fit into the plate. It barely fit into the PCB. That thing was tight. Tight is good because this is PCB mount gasket. You can actually run the plateless if you want. I didn't. I like the carbon fiber here. I like the little bit sturdiness, and I want it to sound a little bit fuller. But I broke some switches trying to remove it out. I was actually afraid of removing the switches out, so I actually took out the entire assembly to do the hot swap, because yanking it and then slipping at the end, if it doesn't come out, I'm going to scratch the top case. So unfortunately, that is something I did report back to ClickClack, saying that is very tight in the plate and PCB and kind of destroyed some of my switches, putting it in and taking it out. In terms of the PCB itself, there's no JST connector for the USB. Bro, look at this. That's it. It's actually a magnetic pogo pin thing, which is cool, very modern. But unfortunately, the prototype that I was sent, the ribbon cable that was connected to the magnetic pogo pin connector, it was a little bit loose. So the magnetic action where it like snaps into the PCB, it pulled apart the ribbon cable, and on my stream, I lost connection a few times, and I thought I'd break the board. The hell? Unfortunately, that was the ribbon cable. So we do have a magnetic connection where we're able to avoid the end user doing the ribbon cable connection by allowing for a quick magnetic connection. But if the magnetic connection pulls the ribbon cable out, you still have to take it apart and then connect the ribbon cable, and the ribbon cable is very short, so it's a whole thing. So all I have to say is it's great, but it doesn't always work perfectly. Yeah, that's something I reported back. Hopefully they can secure the ribbon cable better from the factory. Hopefully it is an issue one-off from the prototype of this board. Keep in mind that is possible, so don't think you brick your board. Just make sure that all the connections are secure. Something may have gotten loose. 4 screws for the case makes it super easy considering it's a very big board. These little custom molded feet come off, and just one little screw inside. There's little holes. Did I do it right? And the idea is it's recessed a little bit, so once you push it in, it shouldn't come off. You can just rub it, it won't come off unless you stick your finger in there and pull it off. I do think it can be improved with a little bit more deep recess considering it did come off. Let me try to just rub it off real quick on my desk. I mean, once it's flat on the desk, it doesn't come off, so there's that. I like the custom feet. I don't like adhesive silicone rubber bump-ons because they start yellowing and they come off, and once they come off, the adhesive is useless. You can't reapply it, and you gotta buy your own extras. It's a whole thing. So with all that out of the way, we talked about the aesthetic, we talked about the build, we talked about the RGB, we talked about the tight holes. How does this sound? With the looped in film Gateron cream sodas, it sounded great. I have a dynamic mic here, so this may not be truly representative. The sound test from the stream will be better because I was using a shotgun condenser microphone thing. But here, this is holding in my hand, and it sounds pretty good in my opinion. Usually with these boards, the weakness is in the corner keys, especially since it's very large. But I think with the single PCB and the single carbon fiber plate, solid one piece, with minimal flex cuts, it sounds pretty full. And you may say, dude, you're using a long pole switch. That's cheating. It's gonna make it sound not hollow at all. That is true. So provided with this board, there is a porous case foam, which I am using in here. The porous case foam usually doesn't make it sound as foamy, but allows it to kind of reduce a little bit of the hollowness. I will say, without that foam thing installed and without a desk mat, even my 1.75 inch, quite large walnut wood desk sound a little bit hollow. Just a little bit. With a desk mat, completely gone. So keep that in mind. If you have a desk mat, you're good. I think I will recommend in this situation to use the porous case foam because it doesn't make it sound too foamy and it does aid in the sound. So we have the plastic acoustic sheet at the bottom screwed in to help with the hollowness. We have the porous case foam to help with the hollowness. I haven't used force break on this. I haven't found the need to, but if you're gonna try to run it raw without the case foam, without a desk mat, I would probably force break it. It's just me listening for hollowness at that point. I think the weakness would be around the backspace and the escape key if you run without anything without force break. In general, for the price point, I think it sounds pretty good. And to the point of being long pull, I did check it with Gateron Oil Kings, which are not long pull, which are also fat in various locations, especially the corner keys that would sound bad, and the middle GH area sounded pretty good still. It sounded solid. Carbon fiber plate here sounds great. So this is just Gateron Oil Kings. I just want to test for hollowness. sounds just as good, man. Not a long pole carry. And about the list of the cons, I talked about it before. The LED at the bottom, it's not programmed correctly. The holes are tight, which can be fixed. The programming can be fixed. The ribbon cable came off. That's something that they really need to pay attention to, maybe secure a little bit better. There's also an issue with the hot swap socket at the pipe key. Due to the orientation, maybe the plate, the key doesn't sit flat in the prototype. And I reported these things back to ClickClack, so hopefully they fix these prior to the production run. The GB started the beginning of the month of February and is ending next week, end of February. So hopefully I get this video out soon. But yeah, $220 for a full-size keyboard PCB mount, which is my favorite. That sounds more full, it sounds more complete, and sounds poppier than the other full sizes I've tried. I think it's a banger, especially with the colorways that they're doing. They can fit any personality, or you can get something a little bit more minimal right here with the gray and the silver. And you got the GMK Olive, fits pretty nicely here. Might keep it this way because this is one of the only keycap sets I have with a numpad. I think this board is solid, $220, really can't go wrong. It is still a group buy. I know the hobby is winding down a little bit. I still think there is a place for the kind of budget category until certain legislations kind of ruin that for everybody. But for the United States customers, they'll find a way. Hopefully you still have these budget boards that get more people into the hobby, because with the $220 board like this, why would you need to go to like a $400, $500 one? Honestly, that kind of category is really hard to justify these days, and I'm more into getting something like high quality, full featured, sounds good, a low price point, so I'll get my 1, 2, or 3 keyboards, fill out my collection, and be good. I know in this video I talk super fast. I just drank a Vietnamese coffee. I apologize. Hopefully you can play it slower. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.